Well, thank you all for coming and enjoying the 75th anniversary of Porsche. And in conjunction with the high performance driver's education event that's started yesterday and is going on right now, you'll hear the cars zooming around the track. We at the Peach State wanted to demystify some of what is perceived to be a couple of additionally challenging areas of Porsche Club participation. One, of course, is how does one drive on a track? Well, we have a whole program of driver's education events that go on several times per year, primarily here at Road Atlanta, but also at Atlanta Motorsports Park. There's a rally school going on right now in the classroom just down here to the left. They'll be running a second session in the afternoon. But right now what we want to do is talk about Concours and what Concours really means, particularly at the club level. And we're going to walk through these couple of cars. We'll walk through classes, some tips and tricks on preparation, but we're really going to walk through how judges look at the cars and what we as judges look for and don't look for. But the main thing to understand about Concours, many of you I'm sure have attended more official and elegant Concours, which is really where the name Concours d'Elegance came from. Many events like Pebble Beach, for instance, are the best of the best cars ever made, and generally are restored to either as good condition to where the car was produced new, oftentimes some exceeding that. But in shows like Pebble Beach, the main importance is on originality. Is this the right nut and bolt, and is it turned the right way and such? At the club level, we're not concerned with that at all. So if you have a modified car, like we have a Cayman R parked outside that we'll point out a couple of interesting features on because of how it's set up, particularly with the interior roll cage. If that's original to the car or not original to the car, at Peach State and at the club level, we really don't care. It's all about preparation. How do you prepare your car? And what does preparation mean? It means washing your car. So Rick Daniels, one of our former club presidents, refers to Concours as competitive car washing. Proper laughter, exactly right. Because that's really all it is. If you know how to and spend time cleaning your car, then your car will perform well. The main thing to understand about Concours is that you and your car are competing against a perfect score. You're not competing against the car sitting next to you. The car next to you may very well be in the same class that you're in, but all that means is that the judges have to apply the same standard for how they are evaluating that particular car against the others that are in the class. You're welcome. So if as a judge, and as an exterior judge, I want to pay particular attention to vents, for instance, and I'll run my finger and just see if I pick up any dust, which is all about cleaning, right? If I find a little bit of dust or debris, I will deduct 1/10 of a point. I need to do that same check on every car that I'm looking at. If I am not checking that part, I cannot then go and check it on a different car. As a judge, I need to be consistent. And that's one of the things that we look for in how we evaluate those who join the judging team. So that's the main thing to understand, is that each car is running off of and against a perfect score, right? You're not competing again against any other cars. So let's go to where it says preparation group 1 and 2. The numbers denote really the model of the car, and each model car will be put in its own category. The S or T refers to either street or tour. There are, generally speaking, 2 different levels of preparation. Next page over, you'll see the classes defined. Street class preparation, only the exterior of the car and the interior of the car will be judged. That's it, it's 2 pages. And we will review all of the judging pages, exterior, interior, storage, and engine where applicable, as part of today's class. Tour is exterior, interior, storage, as we see, storage, but also including glove box and side pockets where the cars have them. And then, of course, engines. Now, many cars, particularly the newer cars, Boxsters, Caymans, 991, 992s, all Cayennes, Macans, Panameras, and of course Taycans, do not have engines that one can see. Therefore, one cannot judge an engine on those cars. So as more and more of those cars populate the general Porsche club ownership, at Peach State we've created our own modified street tour section for those cars, because there's a proper tour level competition for a Boxster versus a tour level car being prepared like this 911. More preparation is needed for this car because at a tour level the engine has to be prepared. A tour level competitor in this car has less work to do. So we just decided that's not really apples to apples, not fair. So we've created a modified category. So all Boxsters, Caymans, 991s, 992, 911s, and then all the SUVs and sedans are modified. So it's exterior, interior, and storage. Period, end of story. There is no distinction between street or tour if you own one of those cars. So that's the main thing to understand. And when registering for a Concours, those selections are clearly noted, and you just click the right radio button for what you want to sign up for. If you make a mistake, you just send me an email and say, oops, I signed up for tour, I meant to say street, and it's not a problem. I had an email just like that for, come up this past week for our upcoming second Concours, which is next Sunday at Pipeline Yards. We'll get to that. So there's a nice little chart, classes defined, talking about street tour and our Peach State street tour, and the total number of points available per category. And again, when you are entering your car, every car starts out with that maximum number of points until deductions are noted. All judges, when looking at a car and evaluating, use 1/10 of a point deductions, generally speaking. If a particular area is notably egregious, then that judge may choose to take off a couple of tenths or even up to a full point. But generally, each demerit is in 1/10 of a point increment. So that's one thing to be aware of. So the number of judged areas, exterior, interior, storage, or engine, requires its own judge. So when a Porsche is about to be evaluated, we have timers as part of the scoring team, and the timer says, okay, go. 5 minutes is allotted per car, and each judge goes at evaluating that one area and nothing else. So if I'm an interior judge and I notice something about the exterior, I can't do anything about it. It's the exterior judge that has to see or not see, right? My job is just to focus on the interior. And I have 5 minutes to run through all of the areas on the score sheet, which we will review, for judging my area of interior. Again, if I notice any blemishes or any areas of dust or debris, I will note what I'm seeing and how many tenths of a point I may be choosing to deduct for that area. So you should know that, like I said, each judge, the job of the judge is to be consistent. So if, again, as an interior judge, I'm choosing to pay particular attention to the interior rubber around a window, I need to check that same area on every car that I'm assigned to, so that I am consistent. I can't choose to take a demerit off of one car and then not another. Consistency is really, really important. The other thing to note is that, and this gets to be a little tricky for management of our Concours, which is that no judge can judge his or her own car or his or her friend's car. So when we have our entrants, and many of our competitors are also judges, there's a fun little bit of juggling so that we ensure no judge is judging their own car or any car that they're competing against. Moving on to the slide, judging, what to expect. The main thing is that staging, which is to say when entrants are allowed to arrive at the judging field, is generally 8 o'clock on Sundays. Judging will start at 10 o'clock. So in addition to whatever preparation may be conducted at one's home or anywhere else in advance of the concours, there's at least 2 hours on site to do final prep, because in general, there's going to be some driving from one place to the concours site, and even if a competitor chooses to transport their car, unloading the car can still also pick up some various little bits of debris, and there's time to make that final little bit of touch-up. One thing to note, that some of the locations that we wind up selecting, particularly those that are outdoor and on windy days, other debris from trees and such could very well fall on cars and dust and all that. No points are deducted for any debris like that that falls inside a car or outside of a car, given conditions like that. All judges are reminded that at the beginning, during a judges meeting before we all start, to not look at those bits, because there's no controlling Mother Nature. So that's one thing for you all not to be concerned about. Oh, it's windy and it's dusty. How am I ever going to keep my car clean? I'm going to have to keep dusting it. You don't have to, because you're all in the same boat. Another thing to note, though, is that once we start judging, generally at 10 a.m., all preparation must stop. And if one continues to prep a car after 10 o'clock, that can be grounds for disqualification. We're pretty lenient, so more than likely I or someone else will just come up and say, you got to stop, we've already started judging, and I don't recall ever disqualifying anyone. But it is something to know for fairness. So now it's time for your car to be judged. The exterior judge, there will always be an exterior judge for every car, and that exterior judge is the lead judge on the evaluation. That judge will introduce himself or herself, as well as the rest of the judging team, to the owner, and will then walk around the car, noting any imperfections and such. If any items like windows or hoods are open, that exterior judge will ask the owner to close all of those areas, put up roofs, put up windows, because those are all judged areas. So of course windows can't be judged if they're down. So all areas, all bits will have to be closed. And then once judging starts, then the owner will be asked to reopen all of those bits, not the windows. So the owner will be asked to open doors, open glove box, open side pockets, storage areas, if the car will have storage areas evaluated. And then the time will start, and the timer will call when there's 1 minute remaining, and then when time is up. All of those score sheets will then be collected and sent to our separate scoring team that evaluate and add up all of the 10th point deductions to come up with that final score. And it's a scoring team in that all of those judges' sheets, all of those scoring sums, are checked and rechecked by at least 2 members of our scoring team. Anyone can make an arithmetic error, so we try to have a double check system there. And then at the end, all of those scores are again evaluated. If any points, any tenths of points, are ever deducted, each judge must write a comment so that you, the entrant, will know why a deduction was made. It's hard to have this process be really, really fun and educational if all you get is a score at the end and you don't know why you lost some points. So if I come over to this car and I deduct a tenth of a point because there's debris, there's lint on the roof here, but I don't write lint on roof, then Mike, the owner of this car, will say, okay, I don't know what's wrong with my hood. So that's one thing to note. We're again, this is all about having fun, washing cars, showing cars that we love, and it's all about learning from one another. So a quick review of our Concours calendar. We already had our first Concours at the Distillery of Modern Art on April 23rd. The next Concours is next Sunday, this coming up Sunday, June 11, at Pipeline Yards. It's a brand new collector car storage facility and motor club on the west side of town, just south of Vinings. There was a little bit of confusion. It was brought to my attention that there's a Google Maps photo of the address on Parrott Avenue that shows the condition of the building prior to acquisition, and there's graffiti everywhere, and it's rather unsightly. That's not the case. New photos should have been sent out or will be sent out this week that I took 3 days ago, showcasing the huge metal steel fencing and the new paint and all that. So I can assure you it is a highly secure facility for all of the work that the guys at Pipeline have done. In addition, Colonial Pipeline operates a facility across the street, and this is where all the gasoline and oil comes in to power the entire city, and that place is ridiculously secure. And there are cameras all over their site and pointing directly at Pipeline. So it's to the extent that anyone called up Google and was concerned about the potential sketchiness of our next location, please rest assured, it's great. Note Concours 3, and then by the way, that is an indoor Concours. This is a storage facility, so so it's rain or shine, Concours will be happening and all the cars will be indoors. There are naturally bathroom facilities and such. The next Concours is our annual Hennessy Concours in August. That's also indoors in the Hennessy storage service bays. And then Concours 4, Labor Day weekend, that's Renfest, multi-state event. And a lot of these Concours that we do just at Peach State serve as a good training ground for Renfest when our members will also be competing against owners from other states. We are working on having a 5th Concours later in the fall, and we're still looking at where we're going to have that one. So it should be continuing to be a full season of Concours. And of course, at the end of the year, we tally participation and points earned for our end of year awards, which we give out at the annual members banquet. And in order to be considered for one of those awards, you have to win your class, or at least win a couple of times, and therefore you want to enter as many of these Concours events as possible. Okay, so now it comes to the day of the show. What kinds of stuff should you bring with you? Daryl, I think, did you bring a couple of little of your show and tell items that you bring with you? I'd noticed.
With me, yeah.
I figured you had. These are, this is Daryl Getz, former chair of the Peach State Concours and an expert preparer and owner of this beautiful 1966 911. So Daryl, if you want to walk us through a couple of your items, there's a list of suggested items to bring day of show, but here's our expert who will give his own little insights.
There are many other things you can bring with you, depending on how much you prepare before you come. And in this particular case, I don't drive the car every day, so I can prepare it, in advance and then drive it to wherever the location is. So what I usually bring with me is a roller, that will take lint or any other kind of foreign material off of any place in the interior. Now, the interior judge is going to be looking. For areas like where your feet go, behind the seats, and other areas for lint or any other foreign material. So this is a good thing to bring. The other alternative I didn't bring it today is a handheld vacuum, and I have one of those as well. The second thing that I bring, and this is a Griot's product, this is what's called spray-on car wash. Now, you don't do this, to do the whole car. This is like a touch-up at the very end. So when I come to an event, the car's pretty much in this condition as far as cleanliness goes, and then I will spray this on all the exterior surfaces. And I will say, if you really want to have a good finish and you want to keep it a good finish, use a microfiber cloth. And these are pretty easy to get, and so I spray and then basically use a microfiber cloth to take off all of the spray.
Is that the same product as Speed Shine?
You know, I don't know.
It looks
I
the
honestly
same.
don't know.
Yeah, it looks the same color.
It could be.
Does that leave any streaks if the body's hot?
I've never found it leaving any streaks. I've always been happy with it. Of course, you don't do it all, spray the whole car and then come back and work. You work sections, as you go through. Okay, so I usually do, rear quarter, do top first, and then work my way down and around. The other thing I bring with me, of course, is some kind of window cleaner. Okay? Windex doesn't do it for me. Okay, so what you see here is perfect glass. All right, and I bring newspaper. I didn't bring it today, but I use newspaper and I use this particular product, and I can get all of that. What do we want to call it? I'm gonna call it coating. That gets on the inside of the windows when the car's setting out. Mine doesn't sit out in the sun as much as other cars do, but if you have a driver and you want to compete in the Concours, then I'd suggest you get a product like this and use newspaper, because that will get all that haze that gets on the windows. What I didn't bring, because David said, well, just drive it over, and then we'll be able to show people, what kinds of things the judges look for. So, of course, the judges always look in the rims, and you can see the black brake dust. Okay, so there's a in or out. There's again a Griot's product, okay, that you can use to clean the rims and for tire preparation. Don't use Armor All. It makes it shine, but
it will come off on a judge's hand or cloth. It's a surefire way to have a couple of tenths deducted. As judges for Peach State, we will judge the exterior surfaces, so spokes, and then the exterior surface of the tire itself. We do not go into the wheel, whether it's open and accessible like this rim or not. That is a non-specifically judged area other than looking at overall preparation, and each judge will keep that in mind and possibly can deduct a tenth of a point for overall prep. But specifically, you should never see a judge taking their hand and going inside. That said, if you run out anything that's an exterior surface and you come up with any kind of debris, this car has been on track, so it's purposely dirty.
What about the brake caliper?
Same thing. It's on the inside. So it overall preparation, it should be cleaned, but a judge can is not supposed to stick their finger and actually touch it. But one can see that there's dirt on this caliper. So that is a judge-specific call. Again, the judge must be consistent. So if as a judge I see that there's dirt on a caliper, then I need to specifically look at every other caliper that I'm going on a car that I'm going to be looking at, just to keep that in mind. I can't say, oh, well, I see it on this car, and Daryl's calipers are a little harder to see, so I won't worry about it. I have to specifically look at each one of those areas.
Probably the most consistent way that judges look at this is surface plane. Okay, so they can take the finger and go around the lip, okay, but not on the backside. Same thing here. We can go down here in a track, but you're not going to go down underneath. And in this area where you can see, there's quite a bit, there. So think of it in terms of surface plane, okay? And that would be the same no matter where you are on the car, very much a surface plane. Other things judges look for, well, I have a lot of chrome, so they're going to look for smears, marks, smudges, whatever on the chrome. not so much on the newer cars, but, you know, for here. So I work at that. Some judges will come underneath the windshield, you can see in the blade, and see whether or not there's any residue on the blade. Seriously, so I always do that. Yeah. So that's a judge specific, but you never know when you're going to get that specific judge.
Right. And again, if that's something that I'm doing, I need to evaluate any debris on either one or both wiper arms for every car that I'm judging. Right. But yes, that is an area that many exterior judges will look for because it's a primary area and for differentiation of how one owner may prepare a car versus another.
Storage is in the street class. So those of you that are
Well, street class just for Boxsters, Caymans, and 991, 992s and such.
okay. So just a nuance again. This did not come from the dealer. So if I leave this in the car, then I get a 1 cent deduction. Okay. Toolkit did come. Okay. Again, I don't know, do we open the toolkit anymore?
No.
Okay. At parade, you open the toolkit, they look at the tools, they see whether or not the tools are dirty or anything. So if any of you are going to parade, I can give you some hints on what you're 15.
You know what, Darryl, let me just interrupt you for a second. Why don't we all switch over from the presentation materials, and I also want to be mindful of time, and let's walk through the, these are actual score sheets. Andrew Douglas kindly gave me permission to use his name and car. These are not actually showing any scores that he earned, but you'll see, let me just walk you through the pages. The first page is what will be sitting on each and every car, and it tells you which car class you're competing in, of course, who you are as an owner, year, make and model, and type of car, coupe, spider, etc. Generally, we will list the color of the car, and this is where our attendees can learn about a car. Particularly, for instance, we oftentimes have a number of different blues, and we try to put all the blues together, and here's Dunkelblau versus Baltic blue versus what's the gentian blue. So it's just another thing that Porsche is has fun with the colors, particularly, and this has been popularized with the Rainbow programs. So we'll always list the color of the car, and then again the class, whether it's tour or street, and the class competing in. So all of this will sit right on the windshield, and it really serves as that identifying bit for everyone attending a concours, and also a means for the judges to identify and find the cars that are on their list for evaluation. So the next page is the summary score page. It again repeats all of that owner information at top, and then we'll show the sum of the scores earned for all of those applicable areas. And so this particular car is showing all 4 areas because it was a tour entered car. For those who are entering either street or our Peach State modified, those other areas would not show because they're not being evaluated, and the total number of points would also be reduced. So let's switch over, and now we'll quickly run through the exterior score sheet. So you'll see that there are various points allocated, and this is allocated by PCA National for parade level judging. We use the same score sheets. And so, as I mentioned, the first thing that an exterior judge is going to do is they're going to walk around the car and look for the coachwork, the shape and the fit. Are there any panel, what's the panel gap? What does that look like? And this is done before the car is opened up. That's that first bit of evaluation that the exterior judge will do before asking the owner to open up all of the areas. Then the next thing is to look at exterior surfaces, paint, in this case the convertible top, if there is a convertible top, what levels of wear might there be, In this case, this particular car also has a bunch of lint sitting on the top of it, so that's an area of a 10th deduction. We'll look at the exterior glass, how that's been prepared. The interior judge will look at the other side, the interior of the glass, but the exterior judge will review all exterior bits of the glass. So if I come over to Daryl's car, I see some window streaking here, that would be 1/10 deduction. If each glass area is equal, it has equal numbers of Mars, then as a judge, it's up to me to say, okay, am I going to deduct 1/10 of a point because there's an area of under preparation on this pane and that pane and this pane and all of these, and then add up and say, okay, glass, total 10, I'm going to deduct 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 10/10 of a point, so 1 full point. Or am I going to say, okay, here was just one area that shows an under preparation, in which case I might say it's 1/10 and just move on. That again is entirely up to each judge, so long as the judge applies that standard consistently.
How are road chips handled? Do you have road?
Yeah. So for Peach State, as long as what we call it, that an area has to be addressed. So the definition of being addressed is if you have a road chip, all you have to do is really take a toothpick with a little bit of touch-up paint and just put a little dot of paint in that area. That's it. You have now addressed that area. And as long as it's clean, it's perfectly fine. So Daryl was talking also about metal trim. That's a separate area that's reviewed. Rubber trim and bumpers. We will check out the exterior of the bumpers. We'll also go underneath the bumpers again. Any type of rubber area for preparation. And we already discussed wheels and tires, outside surfaces. Any other questions on exterior? Yes.
Lenses like changing over clear lenses and things like the original OEM?
Yeah. Again, Peach State and club level Concours, originality is not something that matters. It's all about preparation. So whether you have clear lenses, yellow lenses, whichever, as long as they're clean, great. If they're dirty, not good.
David, quick note, the parade laps are at 11, so we probably will line up about 1:45, 10:02.
Oh, okay. Let's just, thank you. All right, so let's quickly move on. And I'm going to be, for anyone who's not doing parade laps, I'm going to be here. I don't think Daryl's doing parade. Are you doing parade laps?
Yep.
Oh, you are?
Yep.
Okay, well, I'll be here. But let's quickly move on to interior then. Okay, so again here with the interior will already be open. And so in this car, I can see some marring here, whether it's a little bit of residue from sunscreen. We'll look at any marring on the seats. Particularly, we'll also evaluate the seat belts, whether or not there's any dirt or lint. One area that usually picks up areas of lint is the area between the door sill and the door. This is where using double-sided tape comes in handy. You just use that and stick, and most of those items can come off. But that's an area where oftentimes points will be deducted. Same, any surface area, particularly folds or crevices, are really good places to attract dust. So on a car like this, the little fold underneath the ignition, the slats of the vents, this little bit between the binnacle, the instrument binnacle, and the steering column. Those are all little areas where dust can accumulate, and judges with good vision will just see it, and you don't have to necessarily run a finger to pick anything up. But if you can see it, then generally 1/10 will be deducted. No, we do not use flashlights. It has to be visible. So one of the things with interiors, you generally will want to remove items like floor mats because we want to judge. The more items you have in the car, the more areas that can be judged. Floor mats should therefore be removed, and then it's just the underlying carpet that's reviewed. Judges are not allowed to lift up the carpet to get under and see the condition of the actual floor pan itself.
Is there a difference between a cab and a coupe when you do an interior?
No.
Same thing?
Yep. Well, it is the same because the underside of the roof, whether it's an enclosed car like this, an interior judge will look to see the condition of the undersides of sun visors and the material of the roofing material. If there is exposed caging for like a roll cage, like this car that's sitting out here, that's an additional area that would need to be cleaned. Or if there's an exposed bit, like on a 356, the actual top mechanism, all of that would need to be cleaned. What else? All right, let's move on to storage, just in the interest of time. Just a little tip and trick. One of the easiest gotcha points is to neglect to remove garage door openers. Yeah, you do that once, you don't do it again. Fortunately, it's only a 10th, but it's just one of those easy bits to overlook. Anything that didn't come with the car should not be in the car.
The registration and the insurance card.
Yeah, you pull all that out. What else? So so storage compartments, will need to be open. There's a little bit of debris here on the bottom of this particular compartment. So since it's open, I can see it. I'll deduct a point. If both sides are equally debris strewn, depending on how I am as a judge, I might take 2/10 because there are 2 door pockets. Entirely up to me. Again, I need to be consistent, and if I'm only reviewing the driver's side door pocket, I need to only review driver's side door pockets. Right? The fuel filler door is also a judged area, so it'll need to be opened, and you'll want to prepare that. Door latches, the metal part here, that's another good spot for grime to accumulate. Same with underbonnet latches, like this here, and the catch in the body itself. Struts and such, all these areas can be looked at.
Gas tank lid.
Yes. Yeah, so the fuel filler door also needs to be prepared. Not, it's of course an exterior surface, but the inside, the interior door, and the hinges will also be reviewed and looked at to see if there's any debris accumulated there too. What else? For those of you interested in, if you have a car that can have its engine judged, we can come over this way and see Daryl's beautifully prepared engine bay. Again, this is tour level only, not street, and of course not our Peach State street for Caymans, Boxsters, and such. But here it's all about, how is this, what does the sheet metal look like? Or is anything bent? Judge will look for all the pieces underneath, the enclosure mechanisms, spring. This is the underside of the compartment, the pulleys, condition of wiring components, and the main reason that these newer cars cannot be judged for engines is that there's just so much plastic covering, and the older the car is, the more areas, the easier it is for a judge to go and look and find areas of that where debris may have been accumulated.
And the only thing I would say, if you have an older car, at each state they just judge, they don't judge under. Okay, so you at least mine has a separation panel in there, and so you don't go below that separation panel. At parade, in this class, okay, they'll touch the engine around, but they won't go underneath the car. Okay, there's another level of competition where people put their cars up on a rack and clean everything underneath.
That's only at parade, though.
Yeah, only at parade.
Which is the national Porsche Club event, and rotating different locations each year. This year, Father's Day week parade is in Palm Springs. Next year, it'll be in Alabama at Barber. So since it's going to be closer, we're hopeful that we'll have more Peach State members participating, rather, versus the number of the percentage of participation that we expect to have at this year's California-based parade.
Would that be considered a touring class?
This, if the engine is being judged, it's a tour level entrant. Yes, only tour. The street is just interior and exterior. So tour includes the engine, all storage components. And again, that distinction for this middle class of where street cars also have storage compartments judged is on Boxster Cayman's 991, 992, so the current and most recent versions of the 911, and then all of the SUVs and sedans. Because those cars, even though the Macan and Cayenne and Panamera have our front engine and the hood can be opened, the majority of the motor is shrouded in various bits of plastic versus this motor, so that there's a lot more preparation that an owner of a 1966 vintage Porsche would have to go through to prepare an engine versus the owner of a 2016 Panamera. So engines on those newer cars have been deemed not to be judgeable.